Hey, silent warriors, most people mistake silence for emptiness, but it is a weapon. Today we reinforce your shield. If the world tries to break you with noise, we answer with silence. We live in a world that is addicted to noise. We are taught from a young age that to be heard, we must speak. To be understood, we must explain. To be safe, we must justify our existence. But have you ever noticed what happens when you are in a high-stakes situation? Perhaps an interrogation, a salary negotiation, or a heated argument with a toxic partner. The person who talks the most is usually the one who loses. When you over-explain, you aren't clarifying your position. You are leaking data. You are handing over the map to your insecurities, your fears, and your triggers. In the psychology of human behavior, words are often a sign of submission. We talk to appease. We talk to fill the void because the void feels dangerous. But what if I told you that silence is not a void? What if silence is actually a shield? There is a reason why the Miranda rights say, you have the right to remain silent, and not, you have the right to explain your side of the story. Silence protects you. It creates a fortress that manipulation cannot penetrate. Today, on Silent Calculation, we are going to flip the script. We aren't looking at silence as a tool to punish others. We are looking at it as the ultimate form of self-defense. We will explore how to use strategic silence to protect your energy, maintain your status, and become completely unreadable to those who wish to control you. Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Most people view silence as a passive state. They think silence is what happens when you have nothing left to say. But in the realm of power dynamics and social strategy, silence is an active, aggressive form of calculation. It is a decision. If you have ever felt drained after a conversation, or if you've ever walked away from an interaction feeling like you gave away too much power, this video is for you. We are going to dissect the psychology of the over-talker and why the urge to fill the silence is actually a trauma response. 1. The biology of oversharing. To master the art of silence, we first have to understand why it feels so unnatural to us. Why do we feel a physical compulsion to chatter when things get tense? The answer lies deep in our evolutionary biology. When human beings feel threatened, our nervous system activates the fight or flight response. But there is a third and fourth response: freeze and fawn. The fawn response is the one that destroys your social power. Fawning is the act of trying to please a threat to avoid conflict. In a modern social context, fawning looks like over-talking. It looks like nervous laughter. It looks like explaining your reasons for saying no 3 different times, just to make sure the other person isn't mad at you. When you are dealing with a manipulator, a narcissist, or simply a high-pressure negotiator, they are counting on this biological trigger. They know that if they stay quiet, or if they give you a skeptical look, your anxiety will spike. Your brain screams, I am in danger of rejection, and to fix it, you start talking. Here is the critical insight. Every word you speak when you are anxious is ammunition. If you are negotiating a raise and you fill the silence with, I know the budget is tight right now, you have just negotiated against yourself. If you are arguing with a manipulator and you say, I just feel like you don't respect me when you do that, you have just given them the blueprint to hurt you. You have told them exactly what button to push next time. This is the concept of information asymmetry. In any interaction, the person with the most information loses leverage. When you are talking, you are giving information. You are revealing your cards. The person who is listening is collecting that data. They are learning your values, your fears, and your boundaries. By oversharing, you are effectively handing them the remote control to your emotions. Real self-defense begins with closing the breach. It begins with recognizing that the urge to speak is not a sign that you have something important to say. It is often just a sign that you are afraid. And the moment you stop speaking, you stop bleeding power. 2. The shield of silence. Now that we understand the vulnerability of words, let's look at the solution. Silence as a shield. In the psychology of human behavior, there is a technique often recommended for dealing with toxic individuals called the gray rock method. The idea is to become as uninteresting and unreactive as a gray rock. Silence is the core component of this defense. Manipulators, emotional vampires, and aggressors feed on reaction. They are looking for supply. Supply is your anger, your tears, your justifications, or your pleading. When you argue back, even if you are right, you are feeding them. You are engaging in the game they want to play. Silence creates a firewall. When someone tries to bait you with an insult or a passive-aggressive comment, and you respond with absolute silence, or perhaps a slow, indifferent nod, you deny them their fuel. You are essentially starving the dynamic of oxygen. Consider the mechanics of a verbal attack. An insult requires a target to land on. It requires the target to absorb the blow and fire back. If you remain silent, the insult hangs in the air. It reflects back onto the speaker. The silence acts as a mirror. The aggressor is left sitting in the awkward residue of their own rudeness, while you remain pristine. This is also your defense against being read. In strategic scenarios, people are constantly trying to baseline you. They want to know if you are desperate, if you are angry, or if you are easily swayed. Silence makes you opaque. If you don't speak, they can't calibrate their tactics. They don't know if their pitch is working. They don't know if their intimidation is landing. This uncertainty shifts the anxiety from you to them. By remaining silent, you force the other person to project their own insecurities onto you. They start wondering, why aren't they reacting? Do they know something I don't? Am I losing control? Used as a shield, silence also buys you the most valuable resource in a conflict: time. When we react instantly, we are operating on emotion. We say things we regret. We agree to terms we hate. Silence gives you a buffer. It allows you to step back, engage your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, and decide your next move. It turns a reaction into a response. It changes you from a victim of the circumstance to the architect of the outcome. 3. High status, stillness. Beyond self-defense, silence is the ultimate signal of high status. If you look at the most powerful people in any room, the CEO, the veteran detective, the seasoned diplomat, they are rarely the loudest. They practice what we call high-status stillness. In the animal kingdom and in human psychology, constant movement and constant noise are signals of anxiety. The prey animal is twitchy, the predator is still. When you are constantly talking, interrupting, or filling gaps, you are sub-communicating that you are uncomfortable. You are signaling that you need validation from the group. Conversely, the person who is comfortable in silence signals that they are self-sourced. They do not need the environment to reassure them. This creates a magnetic pull called the oracle effect. Because you speak rarely, your words increase in value. It's simple supply and demand. If you flood the market with your words, they are cheap. If you withhold them, they become gold. Let's look at a practical example: negotiation. Imagine you state your price for a service. The client looks at you and says nothing. The amateur will panic. They will say, "But you know, I can be flexible," or "I can throw in a discount." They have just bid against themselves because they couldn't handle 3 seconds of quiet. The strategic operator states their price and then shuts their mouth. They enter the void. They wait. If the client stays silent, the operator stays silent. They are comfortable in the tension. Eventually, the client must speak, and usually the first person to speak after a price is named is the one who concedes. This form of silence is not passive. It is heavy. It has gravity. It compels the other person to work for your approval. It creates a vacuum that the other person feels compelled to fill with truth, with concessions, or with better offers. By doing less, you extract more. 4. The protocol. How to apply this tomorrow. So, how do you implement this? How do you move from being a pleaser to a silent calculator? Here is your protocol for self-defense. First, implement the 3-second rule. In any conversation where you feel your heart rate rising, never answer immediately. When they finish speaking, count to 3 in your head. 1, 2, 3. This creates a tactical pause. It allows you to assess if they are actually done talking, or if they are just pausing to reload. It also shows you are not intimidated. Second, end with a period, not a question mark. Many people dilute their power by adding qualifiers to the end of their sentences. "I can't do that, if that's okay," or "I think this is the right way, right?" Stop seeking permission. State your boundary. "I can't do that," and then stop. Let the silence seal the sentence. Third, use the mirroring stare. When someone says something rude or manipulative, do not verbally defend yourself. Look them in the eye, maintain a neutral face, and say nothing. Hold the gaze for 4 seconds. This non-verbal cue screams, "I saw what you did, and it didn't work." It is far more terrifying to a manipulator than any shout could ever be. Conclusion: silence is not empty. It is full of answers. It is the sound of you taking your power back. In a world that wants to extract everything from you, your attention, your data, your emotional reaction, silence is the one thing you can keep for yourself. It is your fortress. By mastering the psychology of silence, you protect yourself from being read, you protect yourself from being manipulated, and you elevate yourself in the hierarchy of competence. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself to someone who doesn't listen, remember, you don't need to win the argument. You just need to win the silence. If you want to master the darker, deeper aspects of human psychology and strategy, make sure you are subscribed to Silent Calculation. Hit the like button if this video gave you a new perspective. And tell me in the comments, what is one situation where you wish you had stayed silent instead of speaking? I want to hear your stories. I'll see you in the next video. Stay silent, stay calculated.